Welcome to the gathering at the Cosmic Fire 2024 Summit, a celebration of the source of our awakening. Whether you were nurtured by earth-based wisdom your entire life, you were blessed to meet a teacher along your path, or you're listening here today on the threshold of something new, each one of us has been gifted an opportunity to awaken more deeply in every moment and to be of sacred service. Together, we are embarking on an amazing adventure around the cosmic fire. Honor shamanic earth based healers and teachers from around the globe will share their stories of awakening, each offering beauty and illuminating wisdom and medicine ways that may be our most valuable natural resource. This gathering is brought to you by Shamans Directory, an online global platform dedicated to bringing shamanic earth based services to the world's doorstep. At Shamans Directory, we are committed to honoring the Earth's living lineages, the medicine people and communities who invite our human family to heal and to awaken to a better, more kind, more sustainable way forward. I am Mayumi Beckers, a founding member of Shamans Directory and one of your hosts around the Cosmic Fire. On behalf of your four hosts, Wake Wheeler, Trisha Bennett, Ava Eagle Tree, and myself, I am delighted to welcome you to the gathering at the Cosmic Fire 2024 Summit. And the topic for our summit this year is honoring the source of our awakening. And as you will be seeing a lot of the four of us over the next 5 days, we thought that it would be interesting to begin by sharing our personal stories of awakening with all of you. And before we do this, I would like to tell you a little bit about the summit and how to make the most of it, because there's so much great wisdom that will be shared. Around the cosmic fire, you will hear from more than 40 honored wisdom keepers who have been initiated into shamanic earth-based lineages. Speakers will include healers, teachers, and wisdom keepers from original, indigenous, and First Nation peoples, as well as Western trained shamanic earth-based practitioners from across the continents. You will see familiar faces from the global shamanic community, as well as some exciting new faces, each with unique and valuable wisdom and medicine to share. And we are so glad that you have found yourself here to awaken, to remember, and to become a part of our global community. And as a participant in this summit, we know that you are here to find a better way forward for yourself, for your family, and for our global community. And in order to access the many treasures in this summit, we have a few thoughts that we would like to share with you. First, each day has an abundance of wisdom to share. All of the talks will be available for free for 48 hours after the speaker's presentation. And we invite you to be present for as many talks as your time allows. And these are timeless wisdom offerings. So if you want to begin to attending for free, we suggest choosing the 2 or 4 speakers each day that excite and intrigue you most and start from there. And we also would like to say, take your time, because each and every speaker has valuable and timely wisdom and medicine to share. Find a quiet spot, settle in, or take a walk in nature and enjoy. And as you listen, ask yourself, how does this apply to me? And if I were to adopt this wisdom or practice into my life, what healing, change, or transformation might be possible for me? And what might be possible for my family and community? And what could be perhaps possible for the world? We recognize also that there is an amazing abundance of wisdom available to you this week. So if you find yourself rushing or running out of time, please do not worry, and know that you can purchase also lifetime access, which will allow you to return to all of the talks as many times as you like and for as long as you like. Shamans Directory is a nonprofit organization, so 100% of the proceeds from lifetime access purchases will go directly to making shamanic earth-based services available across the world. And we are also proud to be partnering with the Mother Earth delegation of United Original Nations and Kiva Roots of the Earth for this year's summit. And 20% of the proceeds from the summit will go to supporting these organizations and their efforts to preserve the wisdom, traditions, lands, and cultures of world's living lineages. And also, please don't forget your gifts. Whether you're attending the summit for free or you have purchased lifetime access, make sure to scroll down below each video for inspiring quotes, links, and gifts. And these gifts are free to everyone around the cosmic fire. And they have been offered with so much love and deep medicine, and we will hope that you will enjoy them all. And finally, being a part of the Shamans Directory global community and the Cosmic Fire team has been such a joy and a delight, and to receive all the beauty, wisdom, and inspiration for our transformative times. I really felt that I received so much insight and I can take them forward in my own awakening. And I sincerely hope that you too will be more deeply awakened to the beauty of shamanic earth-based wisdom and inspired to step more fully into your healing work, your calling, and your life. Now, to tell you a little about my own source of awakening, I experienced many awakenings that presented themselves at various levels. At the level of my own personal and family issues, I have had many things to work on, and my brother's death to suicide triggered my own awakening and search for truth. At the earth level, I was shaken up by Mother Earth during the earthquake that was followed by the tsunami and disastrous nuclear power plant leakage when I was living there in Japan. At the corporate level, I witnessed the priorities of power and profit over people and planet that come from Western values where status, success, and money override everything. And at the NGO level, I was misled and shocked by the deceitful conduct of an organization that claimed to be committed to peacemaking in the world. And at the global systemic, military, and pandemic level, I observed the continuation of the corruption and lies that are continuously inflicted on our global community. And each of these events was an awakening to a more authentic version of myself. And this awakening journey has been a long and deep process, and it was certainly not easy. What became crystal clear to me is that things could no longer continue the way that they were going. I was called many, many times to wake up and be of sacred service by the universe and spirit. Throughout this awakening process, I went back to reading and researching about ancient civilizations and mysteries that I've been interested in since my childhood. And this led to me to encounter shamanism. And I met a great shamanic healer and teacher in London when I was living there. And alongside, I was introduced to Mother Ayahuasca at plant medicine ceremonies guided by my masters. When I eventually was called to study and practice shamanism and the art of healing myself, I went back to my roots and the awakenings began pouring in. Inspired by a shared calling with my grandfather, who was an apothecary, I learned something new every day. And every day when I learned something new or had a new experience was an awakening. Every new beautiful teaching, every new mystical experience, every new hidden part of myself that got revealed, all were awakenings. And when I met the Quedopacos from the Andes in Peru, I knew that this was what I had been looking for all along. This was an ancient knowledge and technology, an ancient map of symbols, weavings, and wordings that felt completely true and somehow also familiar to me. I was so glad to have found this source of wisdom and to be able to learn directly from a living lineage that have kept these ancient traditions alive for thousands of years. And more awakenings have happened since I met my teachers. Through going back in time and remembering the magic in the unseen realms from when I was a small child, as well as being in present time, in nature, and in ceremony, I'm always amazed by the messages, the omens, and synchronicities that we receive from spirit, and how we each are empowered as energetic beings to shape the present moment and direct our future. I also had an important lucid dream that was about awakening. I was a 3-year-old and shaking everyone around me in an effort to wake the sleepy people up. And I understood that it was somehow my mission to assist in the awakening of the people on the earth. And I learned that it was not in a corporate NGO or global systemic way, but in a shamanic earth-based way where we honor the wisdom and traditions of all living lineages of the world. And those lineages that have a direct taproot connection with Mother Earth and that hold the wisdom, the original wisdom to guide us to make the right choices and enable us to make the big leap forward for global and human evolution. And it's my drive to contribute through Shamans Directory and together with all of our partners, collaborators, and members in making the original medicine of the earth whole again and retrieve the wisdom and knowledge from the lands where the keepers of the lineages have disappeared. There are so many ways to awaken, and I hope that you will be inspired and awakened by every story from our honored speakers. As new life arrives from the sun every day, may we always remember that we have within us every day the opportunity to awaken. Now I would like to pass it on to Wake Wheeler.
Thank you, Mayumi. Hello, my name is Wakely, Robert Wakely Wheeler. The center of my name was chosen to honor my grandfather, Arthur Weeks Wakely, a multidimensional man, a lover of the land, a storyteller. He lived on a lakeshore in southern Wisconsin, and I, as a young boy, found that my favorite place to be, especially when we take footsteps along the lake path or slide across the silver waters. Something came alive within me. Arthur was a grandfather of tales of those who walked aside this lake, a teller of stories shared within a sleeping porch and taken to the time of dreams. Potawatomi people lived on these shores of Kishwaketo, Clearwater Lake. The indigenous ones who paddled, hunted, feasted, and celebrated their life upon these shores. Chief Bigfoot, Mongizik, chose to walk aside this lake, glide across its waters, lead ceremony on her sacred lands. Nowadays, at the western shore of the lake, stands a tall bronze statue of the chief. He's gazing at the waters, paddle in hand, on the verge of being marched to a landlocked prairie. Final ripples reach toward this chief, who seemingly bids farewell to a dear home. These shared stories awakened a living presence within me, a resonance with those who walked here before, an enlivening of place, the forming of an inner landscape I was just beginning to explore. Through these faraway tales, I was becoming a descendant, a walker of paths, a steward of sacred land. I'd like to tell you a short story in 3 parts. Part 1, a palm reader in the family. My grandmother Ruth was a palm reader, a dynamic matriarch with a shock of silver hair. She fancied herself a socialite, her true talents emerging especially at parties. When she'd ask a friend to open her palm, gently trace the lines appearing there, pause for a breathless moment, and announce a prophecy. Much more personal advice than any esoteric knowledge. At one of these sessions, grandmother took my hand, prying it open. She examined my patterns and proclaimed, "You need a haircut." And another time, she delivered the news that I would die young. And in the meantime, despite her unconventional delivery, a secret language was revealing itself to me, a code in lines and spaces, esoteric messages coming to life, direct connection to hidden realms, and awakening of what lies beneath the surface. Part 2. The name was there all the time. After my mother's death, and in honor of my storytelling grandfather, I began to introduce myself as Wake. This name calling became its own awakening. One summer, traveling in the Andes, I introduced myself to the Q'ero, the tribal priests of this sacred land of mountain peaks. Each time I made my introduction, Wake or Wakely, I received a joyful, "Oh, Waikiki," as they beheld a North American traveler named for an informal and endearing call of one spirit brother to another. "Hey, Waikiki," I would hear, often with a smile. And as I affirmed my core name, most everyone, priest or taxi driver, responded in this same fashion, awakening their own sacredness while affirming what they saw in me. Part 3. Hidden text, woven tiles. Following my father's passing, I chose a sabbatical from the practice of law and never looked back. And those first journeys to the southern half of this world, engaging in evening ceremonies underneath a completely transformed starscape, something inside me ignited, glowed, guided. I then sought ways to feed an awakening curiosity. During one of my first immersives in the indigenous traditions, a small group of seekers sat aside a lake in Northern California. All of a sudden, from behind me, the energy expanded, and swirling rainbow fabrics flew, soaring to the circle's center. A mad dash ensued, and I sat, marveling at this wild passion. When the space cleared, I approached and was drawn to a tender piece of patterned cloth rising in my hands. I was suddenly touched by spirit's very fabric, experiencing gentle tenderness, receiving direct dialogue, somehow sent to me from far away. These simple woven cloths gradually becoming dear companions to accompany and inspire my explorations. Perhaps the comfort of this cloth viscerally speaks of my own first tiny blanket. Maybe I'm intrigued by the colors and patterns dancing through these threads. Embedded here is the memory of the weaver who lovingly crafted these fabrics. The great mountain pastures where the strings took form, and the esoteric yet somehow familiar patterns embedded in this portable library of the sacred. No matter the intent of my engagement with these cloths, whenever I put my attention here and to their living nature, something new opens within me. An imprint, a pathway, a portal, a resonance with a presence deep within. Messages from those who came before me, reflections of the present, guidance for what's to come. These transcending tiles of text enliven a secret knowing and propel me to fulfill their calling and my own. In conclusion, traversing sacred pathways. This fall, my family is journeying back to Quiche Waketo at my invitation for our own walking pilgrimage. We'll set up camp near the water's path and stride 12 miles for each of 2 days, tracing timeless trails. I yearn to hear anew the voices of the lake. I wait to sense the whispers of former footsteps, anticipate the sweet taste of tales we'll relay to one another from the teachings waiting here. Perhaps crafting our own family narrative from a shared journey on these pathways of light. I yearn for these moments. And now, through this summit, I'm ready to listen to more tales of awakening, to watch lives transforming. I surely will feel reflected here portions of my own journey and be inspired by the callings and actions of others. And I'll certainly notice I'm a part of a great community of seekers, serving to weave our own sacred cloth of awakening, which no doubt will pass to many others through the magic of time. And now, I'm honored to introduce you to Trisha Bennett, co-founder of Shamans Directory, a dear friend. Trisha?
Welcome, everyone. I am Trisha Bennett, one of the founding members of Shamans Directory and one of your hosts around the cosmic fire. I am so excited about the topic for our summit this year, honoring the source of our awakening and the potential that it has for both our personal and collective awakening. It's always so much fun to create these summits because as the hosts, we get to know more about our shamanic colleagues around the world, and we get to share all of that beautiful wisdom and knowledge with you, our guests. This year was especially fun for me because I got to learn more about our team here at Shamans Directory and the stories of awakening that brought us all together. So my own story of awakening began early in my childhood, but the fullness of what was happening was not clear to me until many decades later in my 50s. So I was fortunate to be raised by a father who believed that life in our universe and everything beyond it is a great mystery. And he believed that there is a source of creation that encompasses all of science and all of the spiritual world, all that we will ever know and all that we will never know. And he believed that full access to this source was not to be achieved by attempting to understand or define it, but in knowing that it holds the original instructions for all of life, and that all of it can be accessed through listening, which most of us have forgotten how to do. So his awe of every tiny thing in nature made me look closely at everything: the trees, the grass, the ponds, the streams, the lightning and thunder clouds, the insects, and all the living things that crossed my path. And with each of these things, I started a dialogue. And through looking closely and listening and experiencing the wonder of each individual thing, I began to see the interconnectedness of all things, the seamless integration of each thing together, making up the whole, and understanding that I was a part of that, and that each one of us is a part of that whole. So as my dialogue with the natural world deepened, I noticed that something else was present during my conversations. And as a child, I didn't have words to describe it, but the way that I describe it now is that there were energetic observers, beings that I could sense but not see. And at first there were just a few, and then as time went on, there were many. The spirit world was observing, And as I acknowledged its presence, it started participating in the conversation. So I spent a lot of unsupervised time in nature as a child, and having no one to contradict my experience, my relationships with the natural world and the spirits grew and deepened into an ongoing daily dialogue, which remains to this day a constant in my life. So looking back from the time that I was about 5 or 6 years old, I remember adults regularly asking me how I knew certain things about life. And I would reply that I didn't know how I knew them. I just knew them. So the way that I now describe how I have received these messages since I was a child is that I'm presented with a movie. I ask a question and a movie begins to play. There's no soundtrack, but I can ask questions and receive answers as the story in the movie unfolds. This gift of asking and listening has guided me through every aspect of my life and served me well in a long career as an addiction and trauma specialist. The guidance that I receive from my clients has always been clear and direct. And if I was unsure how to communicate what I was seeing, I would ask the spirit world to communicate through me. And it always did. Over close to 40 years, I worked with thousands of people of all ages, supporting them to discover the most authentic and powerful expression of who they were, to move from suffering to joy, and to live lives that they truly loved. I did not, however, meet many people who work in the same way as I did, who I could share and collaborate with as colleagues. Over the years, I have been referred to as a clairvoyant, a psychic, an old soul, and other things of that nature, but none of those descriptions have ever resonated for me because I have never experienced the wisdom that I receive as coming from me. I have always experienced that wisdom as a source coming through me from somewhere outside of myself. I just never had the language to explain it. So I'm only able to share the details of my story with you today because finally, in my early 50s, I came across a book about shamanism. And the book explained the gift of shaman's sight, and it was describing me. It spoke about being able to see the future in vivid detail, scanning the horizon for all possible futures, and knowing how it was likely to turn out depending on which future a person or a community chose. So needless to say, I was fascinated by finding a book about ancient practices that described my present day life experience, and I have been studying shamanic earth-based traditions ever since. I know today that there are entire communities of people all across our planet who have been listening and receiving the same kind of guidance that I receive for thousands of years. We may receive our messages in a slightly different way, but the results are the same. All of the answers are there, and we receive them through the practice of listening. Today, because of the gift of this awakening, in addition to ongoing guidance from the spirit world, I have human colleagues as well. Shamanic, lineage-based teachers from around the world who help me to continue to understand and hone the skills that I have and how to use them in best service to others. Several years ago, I was asked by a shaman when we were comparing how he and I each see the wisdom that we receive, if there were times when I did not see a movie. And it was not until I was asked that question that I realized that there had indeed been times when, try as I might, I could not see a movie. And looking back, I was struck to find that those were the people who had either overdosed on drugs or taken their own lives. So these kinds of losses were part of the territory as an addiction and trauma specialist, but to discover in retrospect, without knowing it at the time, that I had seen those tragedies coming was a huge revelation. I had not seen a movie because there was no future to be seen. So we often hear that people are born with healing gifts. And while this may be true for some, I believe that the gifts that I have were developed and that anyone can learn them with patience and practice. During this gathering at the Cosmic Fire Summit, I encourage you to see if you can sense the universal guidance and wisdom that is reaching out to you through our amazing speakers from the stars, the planets, and the ancestors, the voices of those who have lived before us, and perhaps even those who will live after us. I like to say that the universe is paying attention, and when it knows that you are listening, it will speak to you, especially if you're good at following instructions. And the more deeply you listen, the more will be revealed. So happy listening, everyone. Have a great summit. And I'm now going to turn it over to Ava to share her story with you and wrap up our 4-host offering.
Greetings, dear soul family. I'm Ava Eagletree Bloom. I'm a member and host of Shamans Directory, and I'm honored to share about our topic for this year's summit, honoring the source of our awakening and the potential through remembrance for this to be a catalyst for transformation, growth, and healing. The question of awakening is a beautiful invitation to remember first and foremost that we are ever and always arriving and becoming. And so I believe that our awakening is a biodynamic, ever-evolving event. And through this inquiry, we can turn a keen inner eye to continually ignite and feed the fire and passion of our purpose and sacred service on this earth. My own story of awakening is connected to my earthly arrival on Halloween, October 31st. In many traditions, it's believed that the veil is thin at this time of year, and this is when the circle of life and death meet and become informed by the other. For me, the veil between worlds has always been very thin, and I have always been extremely sensitive to other worlds and what I now would call the seen or unseen allies. From my earliest memories, I communicated easily with animals and saw, felt, and heard spirits of the flowers, waters, wind, moss, forest. As a child, it was very natural to listen to the song of the earth and to be in communion with her. I loved finding magical portals in the forest that were filled with wonder and power. And I would hang out here and sing and talk to the fairies and nature spirits. Then, when I was 8 years old, circumstances tore me from the simplicity and the beauty of the country and my childhood home and thrust me into the chaos of the big city. This was a very lonely and confusing time for me. In order to make sense of the messages, the symbols, emotions, and color that I felt from the energy all around me, I became like a tuning fork, always humming, always vibrating, always singing songs. And those songs helped me feel safe and okay. And those song lines were truly my lifeline. And they connected me back to my childhood land that I loved and that I believe loved me. Looking back, I realized I was always singing in order to harmonize my energy with the greater energy and the frequency of the world. And in doing so, I was able to find my path and place myself on it. Listening deeply to the earth's vibration, and channeling a song became a source of my awakening and a bridge to becoming cohesive and integrating my experiences. Voice frequency, voice alchemy became a healing tool to help navigate confusion, trauma, fear, and pain, and transform intense energy that came into my field. Today, this is a body of work I continue to explore and create. Other events that ignited entry points for awakening were encounters with spirits, visits from ancestral beings, seeing ghosts, phantoms, entities, and often hearing requests from the recently departed. Also, initiatory lightning experience on 2 occasions, as well as many animal encounters. When I was 16, I had an initiatory out-of-body experience where over the course of a week I was visited and worked on by eagle guides that I think of now as when Eagle opened my hands. And this profound event for me was an awakening onto the path of being a healer and a turning away from drugs and alcohol that my peers were involved in. I know without a doubt that this saved my life and was one of the many experiences that put me firmly on my path. I didn't know it at the time, but intense and sometimes terrifying experiences with animals were connected to waking me up and empowering me. And I see now that these intense encounters didn't happen to me, but rather they happened for me. And this was the case for my meeting of grizzly, cougar, eagle, raven, and more. My encounter with 2 male juvenile grizzlies when I was 18 over the course of 3 days taught me a lot about being a transcendental being, about being able to travel into the past and into the future, and also how to be completely embraced and held in the earth, to literally become so still that I was the wind, I was the grass, I was the soil, and my physical form, my body, disappeared. It also taught me a lot about shock and trauma and how to call myself back from traumatic events and how to work safely with soul retrieval, which is a keystone in my work today with others. Near-death experiences also helped ignite my awakening. I can see now how a shocking car accident, actually more than one, a fall, actually more than one, off a horse, a gun held to my heart, a bout with cancer, and more were all a way in which the universe was seeking to shake me up to wake me up into the immediacy of trusting myself and forcing me to upgrade my discernment and wake up that innate potential that is within all of us, that intelligence within our system that wants to be woken up. Another key element in my journey of awakening was first meeting and working with master plant allies. My first experience with ayahuasca over 15 years ago changed my life completely and ultimately uprooted my family, my husband, and 2 young children. We all lifted up from our home in Seattle and moved to the Hawaiian island of Maui, where we could work and live with this profound teacher. A precious and intimate component of my continued awakening is the deep embrace I feel from my Peruvian teachers, my Peruvian family, and the incredible Andean cosmovision that has brought harmony and cohesiveness to my lifelong search and thirst for spiritual growth and study of mysticism. Receiving karpais are transmissions of power, absolutely were a source of my awakening. I am blessed to have received many karpais from many teachers. So through 24 years in the healing field, I can say now with confidence that it's through our wounds, our wake-up calls that the light gets in, and that when we work with our shamanic second attention, trauma becomes medicine, and we become co-creators with all of creation. Contemplating the source of my awakening asks me to ponder, who am I? And though I'm always changing, always growing, I can say in this moment, I am a shamanic practitioner, a mesa carrier, a medicine woman who loves to share songs. I'm a mother, a sister, a daughter, a wife, and most importantly, I am love. And I am beloved. And I'm embarked on a spiritual journey that wakes me up every day, every moment, every second to this gorgeous potential that lives in me, that I can strive for in this lifetime. And I hope that you too can strive for your own awakening and your own deep blossoming and blooming into the heart of love. My hope and prayer is that each unique, intimate story of awakening that is shared around our Shamans Directory fire will remind us that we are not alone. Through remembrance, may we integrate our own awakenings in new and powerful ways to provide some much needed roadmaps for healing and transformation for humanity. And may each of us track the threads of our own awakening, and in doing so, weave purpose, optimism, and hope into our lives that helps us remember ourselves as whole and as wholly, fully connected with each other and within this web of life as children of sacred nature and Mother Earth. Thank you for listening to my story, and blessings on your day. Blessings on your life. Until soon.